Hi everyone, it's Az here from HeelvsBabyface. Water bottle in hand for my voice as we go through the review for The Last of Us Episode 2, Season 1. It's a weird one, this, because all roads lead to Abby. It's one of those situations. And I gave my thoughts and opinions last week on the first episode with Jane Theory. Jane Theory is unfortunately poorly sick at the moment, hence why I'm flying solo in this episode, but she'll be back next week, fingers crossed, up to full health again, and we can resume as a duo. But I said it would be theoretically very difficult to mess up this show. However, there is more context around it if you are a lover of the video games, because we all know all roads lead to Abby, which is very much a Last Jedi situation if I could relate it to something else. And so even though certain things could be okay, you know exactly where this story is going to go. And we do know that they've said for a fact Season 2 will follow the events of The Last of Us Part 2. Joy. So with that said, we know that next week as well there's meant to be a big episode that deviates from the video games. And I believe it involves Bob. So we'll just have to see how that one goes down. There were things that I liked about this episode. There were things that I didn't like about this episode. Again, the series has been a mixed bag for me. One of my major complaints from the first episode was there was a lot of bloat, a lot of filler for no real reason. And again in this episode, I felt that was the case. I do feel that some people are going to like the bloat. They're gonna say it's additional context. It's a different perspective from this and that, and whatever. Me, I just find it unnecessary. The Last of Us is a very tight story, very good story in the video game, and when you deviate from that, it does kind of feel more cosplay as it goes on. But we'll get into it. So it starts off where we get a flashback to 2003, and in the first episode, we heard about there was something going on in Jakarta. And then we actually go to Jakarta at the start, where a woman, a scientist, is brought in, women in STEM, to have a look at some samples because the infection has started to manifest in Jakarta. And she does an autopsy on a body, and then the, stuff comes out of the mouth, and she legs it, and then she tells the general, you gotta, after discussing, have you found all of the infected? And it's like, no, there's 14 people missing, yada, yada, yada. And she says, you gotta bomb the whole city. You gotta bomb the whole city with all of us in it. And so, yeah, it was well acted. And that was 10 minutes long. That was 20% of the whole episode. And I thought to myself, did this really benefit the show? And I personally don't think it did. I'm sure there are some people who are going to love this. I didn't hate it, but I was thinking to myself, wasn't the point of the bloat of the first episode with Sarah so that they could drop these references in, so we were subtly seeing an escalation until we got to the events of the outbreak, the complete outbreak? And so then in the second episode, to take that subtlety and then just slap you in the face with it, I didn't personally, I was like, okay, whatever. So that was one thing that I didn't gravitate towards. And then the opening segment with Ellie and Abby and Joel didn't gravitate towards this. So I'm 15 minutes in, 20 minutes into this episode before they, or nearly, about 18 minutes in, before they even go out of the door. So we've had a ton of just exposition that I don't really think aided the story or pushed the story along. And Bella Ramsey, I am just not in any capacity feeling Ellie from her at all. I think the actress who plays Tess is good. Pedro Pascal's Joel is not Joel yet either. It's not that character, but this is sort of the main brunt of what I didn't like is at least getting out of the way in the first half of the episode. And when they go outside, we essentially switch to the video game. And this is what I did like. The special effects are absolutely incredible. These are some great special effects. I certainly believe that we were in this destroyed Boston. It didn't look green screeny. It looked organic. It looked real. And the actual sets itself, when they go inside a building, are excellent too. So now we're actually getting onto some stuff which I liked. And I like it because it's like I said, it's essentially mimicking the video game anyway. So you're going to be hard pushed to miss a beat here. They enact some scenes. When I say like for like, not like for like, but very, very similar indeed. You know, the dialogue will be changed around, but it's essentially the same scene for the video game where Ellie pretends to check her herself into the hotel. They did that. They added some more. They changed a little bit. When they're on the rooftop and they're looking out over the city and they see the dome, which they need to get to. Those are like for like shots. And then the end scene with Tess, where Tess dies, and she did die in episode 2, which is a big thumbs up for me. Because I had a feeling that we were going to hold on to Tess for a lot longer. So to kill her off in episode 2 is the right move. And again, they mimicked the scene from The Last of Us, but again, they altered a fair bit in it, dialogue-wise, and how Tess actually dies. But it's the same fate. So going through the actual city itself, there were some tense moments when they're crawling through the buildings. And when you actually get to the point where the clickers come in, the clickers look really good. The makeup, the practical aspect of it is excellent. They look very good indeed. Again, they kind of did some elements of the video game. Joel had his revolver. You have a revolver in the video game. He runs out of bullets. He's reloading the revolver. And there's a clicker nearby. There's plenty of times in the video game where you're shooting some clickers. And then you run out of bullets and you got to go try and hide around a corner and then reload the gun. Okay. I get that. So they snuck a few of those elements in, which were okay. But what they changed drastically was the death of Tess. Now in the game, Tess has got bit at some point on the journey, and the Federalas or whoever, the police force, whatever, or what army, whatever it is, are after them in the game. And they're the ones that pull up to the drop-off location. In this case, they don't. In this case, it's a triggered event for the infected. So it's actually the infected which attack the building. And Tess shows in a relatively like for like scene, shows where she's bit. Although I think they make Tess a little bit less sympathetic in this one. Now some people are going to think, wow, that's a bit harsh. But again, I have to compare this to the video game. In the video game, you know, Tess kind of is just I don't know. It's just the acting, the delivery. Because again, I gotta stress, these characters and Tess is acting similar-ish to her character in the game, but Joel is not acting like Joel, and Ellie's certainly not acting like Ellie, and so when they make these changes to the characters, it kind of feels cosplay. You know, why did they have to make these changes to Joel? Why did they have to make Joel softer? It's such a stupid thing to do. Like when I say softer, he's more subservient than a softer character. He's still a hard character. He's just a bit subservient to Tess. So to actually remove Tess from the equation now, it'd be interesting to see how the relationship is going to develop with Joel and Ellie, with Tess out of the way, because now we've actually got to get some development in that relationship. I fear next week is going to be flashback heavy, and therefore we're going to be devoid of that relationship building, maybe for another episode. Who knows? So, other than that, Tess blows herself up at the end. She knocks down a bunch of gas canisters and puts a bunch of grenades in there and then lights it up and blows the whole of this bottom floor out and takes out all the zombies. So she gets a heroic exit. Whereas in The Last of Us, she manages to kill, I think, one of the policemen, maybe two, maybe kills one, wounds one before she's taken out, which we don't see. We hear the shooting, very quick, very brutal, over. And one of the things Cuckman said about The Last of Us Part 2 is we killed Joel early because we didn't want anyone to feel safe. We wanted them to feel as if any character could be taken out at any time. Well, Joel was the character that we cared about. So that was the pisser. We didn't give a shit about Manny or other people getting their brains blowed out. But it just sort of made me think of the way that they took Tess out, and they gave her a heroic send-off, which I'm sure some people will be more than happy with. Or they could have stuck with how the game did it and have that brutality. But, you know, a last stand isn't always that heroic. It's very quick and it's very brutal and it's over. And would that have had more impact than a heroic send-off? I don't know. I'll leave that for you. Obviously, as the audience to decide yourself. But a 50-minute episode, and for want of a better phrase, again, not a lot happening. It took 50 minutes to get to where the game took in a lot shorter. However, with the video game, of course, you're playing aspects of it. So you're getting bits of story. Then you're coming in and you're doing it yourself and you're getting the funsies out of that. Now we're all sat back and we're not interacting with this. And so the story has to me be a bit more compelling, and I think it's going really slowly right now. 7 more episodes to go. It's a 9-episode season because they combined episode 1 and 2. I just feel it's just going at a little bit too slow of a pace for me right now. It could be a lot tighter. It could be a lot quicker. And yeah, that's just the way I feel. I would give this episode give it a 7 out of 10. I think it was better than the first episode, and it did follow the games relatively well for the period that it did. I do think it suffers from pacing issue. I do think it suffers from unnecessary bloat on a story which could be much tighter. I think this series could have been 6 episodes. I really do. But, you know, we're kind of not allowed that nowadays for some bizarre reason. But it's not terrible. There's just niggles that I just can't, you know, quite shake at the moment. So there we go. Episode 2 done. Not really much else to say. You know, the acting's good for the most part, apart from Bella Ramsey, who I just don't see as Ellie in any capacity. Special effects are phenomenal. Absolutely fantastic. Practical effects are very good as well. But it's the characters which still aren't acting like the characters to me. And it's unnecessary bloat, which is unnecessary bloating. And it's a meandering storyline which could push a lot quicker. I don't want another Walking Dead snooze fest. I think the show needs to pick up the pace, but that's just me. I'll see you in the next episode. So until then, take care. Bye for now.